Most people believe that change happens when circumstances change. They wait for a new opportunity, a new environment, or a new version of themselves to appear before they act differently. But neuroscience and modern research show something very different. Change does not begin outside of you. It begins inside the nervous system. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains this with a simple but powerful idea. Your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is made of how you think, how you feel, and how you behave every day. If you keep thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and acting in the same ways, you will keep creating the same life. Not because you want to, but because your brain and body have learned that pattern. This is not philosophy. This is biology. Here is the first truth most people never fully understand. Your conscious mind is not running your life. Neuroscience shows that the conscious mind is responsible for only a small percentage of your daily behavior, roughly 5%. The remaining 95% is controlled by the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is where habits live. It is where emotional reactions live. It is where identity lives. It operates automatically. It does not think in words. It thinks in patterns. This is why you often react before you think, why the same thoughts appear again and again, why emotions rise before logic has time to respond. Your brain is not broken. It is trained. The subconscious mind learns through repetition. Every thought you repeat strengthens a neural pathway. Every emotion you feel regularly conditions the body. Every behavior you practice becomes easier the next time. Neurons that fire together wire together. This is how habits form. This is how emotional patterns form. This is how identity forms. If you have practiced stress for years, your nervous system becomes excellent at stress. If you have practiced self-doubt, your brain becomes efficient at self-doubt. Not because you chose it, but because you repeated it. Dr. Joe Dispenza often describes the subconscious as a record of the past. It is a collection of learned responses built from experience, and the body becomes emotionally addicted to those responses. This is a critical point. Your body does not know the difference between an experience happening in the outer world and an experience happening in the inner world. When you feel the same emotion every day, you chemically condition the body to expect that emotion. Over time, the body becomes the mind. This is why change feels uncomfortable. You are not just changing a thought. You are changing a chemical state. The brain is designed for efficiency, not happiness. It prefers familiar patterns over better outcomes. To the brain, familiar feels safe. Even when familiar equals stress. Even when familiar equals limitation. Even when familiar equals suffering. This is why people fall back into old habits. Old relationships, old emotional states. The brain is not sabotaging you. It is protecting what it knows. Here is another crucial insight. Information alone does not change people. You can understand everything logically and still stay the same, because understanding lives in the conscious mind. But patterns live in the subconscious. This is why motivation rarely works. Motivation is conscious. Patterns are subconscious. When motivation fades, the subconscious takes over again. Real change happens when the subconscious is trained to prefer a new pattern. This brings us to one of the most important mechanisms of change. Your first thought is not chosen by you, it is automatic. It comes from subconscious programming built through repetition and emotional memory. The brain fires the strongest neural pathway first. That pathway produces the thought, then the emotion, then the behavior. But here is the key insight. While you do not control the first thought, you always control the second one. The second thought is slower. It requires awareness. It is where conscious choice begins. Every time you notice an automatic thought and choose a different response, you interrupt the old pattern. This interruption matters more than motivation. Because interruption creates flexibility in the brain. Neuroplasticity happens when the brain is no longer running on autopilot. Awareness is the first step of change. You cannot change what you do not notice. The moment you observe yourself, the automatic loop weakens. But awareness alone is not enough. You must replace the old pattern with a new one, not with a positive lie, but with a more useful interpretation. a response that moves you forward instead of keeping you stuck. Then you repeat it. Repetition is the language of the subconscious. The brain does not respond to intensity. It responds to frequency. This is where Dr. Joe Dispenza adds a powerful layer. Emotion accelerates learning. The brain remembers what is emotional. If you attach elevated emotion to a new behavior or thought, the brain records it faster. This is why emotional rehearsal is so effective. When intention and emotion align, the nervous system begins to accept the new state as real, and repetition locks it in. This is not visualization as fantasy. This is mental training. Identity is the final layer of transformation. You do not act based on who you want to be. You act based on who you believe you are. And belief is built from evidence. Every action you repeat becomes proof. The brain collects that proof, and identity adjusts accordingly. This is why goals often fail. Goals live in the conscious mind. Identity lives in the subconscious, and the subconscious always wins. Real change happens when behavior creates new evidence. When you act as the person you want to become before you feel like it. At first, this feels uncomfortable, because the old identity is stronger, but repetition changes the equation. Over time, the new behavior becomes familiar, the new emotion becomes normal, and the new identity becomes automatic. This is how people change without force. Here is the practical process. First, awareness. Notice the automatic thought or reaction without judgment. Second, interruption. Pause the pattern before it completes. Third, replacement. Choose a new thought, action, or emotional response. Fourth, repetition. Repeat this process consistently. Fifth, emotion. Attach meaning and elevated emotion to the new state. This is how neural circuits change. This is how the body learns a new future. Change does not require force. It requires training. You are not here to fight your mind. You are here to educate it. And when the subconscious changes, behavior changes automatically. Thoughts change automatically. Life changes automatically. You are not broken. You are conditioned. And anything that was conditioned can be reconditioned. This is not hope. This is how the brain works.